Hi, welcome to Let's Get Tender, Money Conversations That Matter. I'm your host, Marlene Elizabeth. Thank you so much for tuning in today. This video podcast is all about helping you to stop under-earning and start unfolding your financial potential one brave feather at a time. Because the truth is, you are your own money wings. In this episode, you're going to meet my very special guest, Jill Lebofsky. Jill is a health and lifestyle coach for women in midlife who takes time out of her busy schedule to share a tender conversation with me about money.
Welcome to Let's Get Tender, Money Conversations That Matter, a video podcast series with certified money coach Marlene Elizabeth, with amazing weekly guests who share their inner challenges, personal triumphs, and inside tips and strategies so you can prosper, lead, and love bravely in business and life. So get comfy and get ready to grow money.
Hi everyone, I am so excited to welcome my very, very special guest today. You're really going to enjoy this conversation today about money. Welcome to the show today, Miss Jill Lebofsky.
Hello, Marlene. Thank you so much for having me today. I am just so excited to get started and have this conversation with money with you. And I just can't wait to get going and share with your audience today.
Wonderful, wonderful. I am so excited too. And I want to share a little bit about you first before we get started. You have an amazing background here. So, Jill Lebofsky creates a safe space for women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s to learn and share on hot topics, helping them to survive and thrive during their middle ages. Topics such as great sex, staying active and fit, rediscovering and redefining oneself. Brave stuff here. So Jill's easily digestible, fun delivery and interactive approach to learning has helped thousands of women gain control over their physical, emotional, sexual, hormonal, spiritual, and financial well-being. You could say you're really very holistic. I love it. These women have seen results of happier marriages, increased self-confidence, stronger, fitter bodies, and more purpose-filled lives. Jill is the author of the Amazon best-selling book, No Sweat, It's Just Menopause, Eating, Exercise, and Essential Oils for a Healthy Change. She has worked in the health field for over 20 years, specializing in women's wellness as a certified health coach, Pilates instructor, and an essential oils educator. She also holds specialty certifications, as a menopause coach and breast cancer exercise specialist. But Jill's biggest achievements are staying happily married to her college sweetheart for 20 years and mothering her 2 high schoolers. Jill practices what she preaches and always says, once you learn something, you can't unlearn it. You can either ignore it or choose to do something about it. Jill Lebofsky is a champion for the midlife woman. Again,
Thank you, Marlene.
Yes. Thank you, Jill. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here to talk about money.
Absolutely. I'm excited.
So Jill, what is your first memory of money?
Well, this is an interesting question because I've been on this personal growth journey for a while now. And this memory was actually triggered within the past year or so, something I hadn't really thought about. And yet I now realize how much it really affected me, both in my adulthood as well as in my business. And it was Thanksgiving dinner, and I was around, 8, 9, 10 years old, and the whole family was gathered. Both sets of grandparents, my younger brother and sister, my aunt and uncle, and my 2 cousins. And the 5 cousins, we were all really close, within about, 6 years of each other. And after dinner was all over, one of my grandfathers, who always did this at every holiday, he would have silver dollars and $2 bills, and he would go around the table and give them to everybody. And then when he was all done, this time he stood up, at least this is how I remember it, and he gave this speech about what a wonderful kid I was and how smart I was and the straight A student. And he gave me $20. And he didn't give anything else to my cousins or my brother or my sister. And I was like so mortified, so uncomfortable with that. And I absolutely remember going to them afterwards and just telling them, you know, I'm going to split it all. So everybody gets their share. Everybody's going to be even. And whether I shared with them or not, I don't really remember, but I just remember that feeling of being uncomfortable, of being singled out, you know, and given something that somebody else didn't have. And you know, just that, I just didn't like that feeling. It was very uncomfortable for me, and just wanting everything to be even. You know, that was really, it's really shown up in many ways.
Yes, this is a very powerful example. Excuse me, I have a frog in my throat today. Could be the dry weather that we're having lately, but this is a really powerful example of sometimes how women will become under earners or stay under earners and not unfold their financial potential, you know, open their money wings, because a lot of times we feel that if we do that, it ends up leaving other people out. You know, somehow we end up being kind of apart from the group, right? And that's a very unsafe feeling. Like our brain even registers that at a very cellular level. For me to be apart from the group is not safe. And so sometimes that actually can start tripping us up from even attracting more wealth, attracting more money into our lives, even to fulfill needs, very real needs, practical needs that we have. So I'm not saying that has unfolded for you, but this kind of example sometimes can lead to that. So thank you for sharing that money story. So powerful. And Jill, but let me ask you, so have you ever then struggled or noticed that there's been limiting money beliefs, or even one that you've struggled with that's prevented you from unfolding your financial potential?
Yeah, absolutely. Probably more than one, but this whole kind of thought, like what you were just saying, this whole kind of concept around, you know, if I have more money, are people going to think that I think I'm better than them? Or are they not going to want to include me? And I've even found this in my own life, you know, dumbing myself down sometimes for things just so I can feel a part of a group. And it really affected my business, and it affected multiple businesses for me. You know, I opened up a Pilates studio a few years ago, and I loved teaching Pilates. I loved my clients. I mean, I gave 110% of myself to them. But because of this limiting belief unconsciously that I had, I often offered discounts or just gave freebies on my time and my services. And, you know, in time, what it ended up doing was it had this like underlying yucky feeling of stress and even resentment a little bit, all based on money worries. And I eventually closed my studio because it just wasn't making me happy anymore. And I started to focus on my growing essential oils business. But, you know, here's the trick. You know, I changed the scenery, but I didn't change me. So I just took that into my next business with me, even though I didn't know that at the time. And I did the same thing. I poured into it. I trained all these teams that weren't even mine. And then what was happening were all these leaders were surpassing me, all these people I had trained, and up crept that kind of resentment and that stress again, and just this negative feeling. And I don't like that feeling. And Pilates and essential oils were such a joy for me. And that negative feeling just really stole my joy. And that's really, it's amazing what those limiting beliefs can really do to you.
Yes. On one hand, when we can see the limiting belief in action and really stand apart and see it, then we can really start to do something about it and change it. Even just becoming aware of that we're self-sabotaging ourselves. It's actually a great feeling, because then you really see that your future, your destiny is within your means, within your control to a degree. And so we're kind of sometimes just give it away. But let me back up for a second, Jill, and let me ask you, so what would you say, how would you phrase what the limiting belief was?
You know, that I think it was really that I was not worthy, you know, of charging. It's probably something to do at that level. You know, that, you know, if I had more money than other people were, you know, that I was just, I guess, I don't know if it was worth necessarily, but it was just that feeling that I didn't, you know, this limiting belief that having more, perhaps that having more made you a snob, you know, that people with more money, you know, weren't kind. You know, people didn't like people with more money. it was all based in there. I'm not sure I'm wording it exactly in line, but that was kind of the gist of it. Yes.
Yeah, no, that's very clear, very clear. And when we're able to, uh, sometimes we end up feeling like we're fitting into that someone else's definition of who we are, and we can say, wait a minute, but that's not me. I mean, you can have all this wealth and still be different. And then it allows other people to say, well, she's different though. She has all this wealth and she's very generous and she's very giving. And she also teaches me how to grow that wealth, and be my best, really. Because when we talk about money, it's about so much more than just money. When we talk about building wealth, it's really about building our own wealth within that we take wherever we go. Even when we lose that financial wealth, we're able to rebuild it again, so powerful. So Jill, what were some of the brave steps that you took to start overcoming this self-limiting belief about money?
Well, I definitely, when you see a pattern emerging, you kind of, this is a long pattern. I definitely knew I had to change things. The same, I wasn't having the financial success I wanted. And I think one of the bravest things that you can do is turn the mirror inward and to look inward and be really honest with yourself about what's going on. I think that, I'm on the outside a smart, successful person, but inside we kind of need to really look at what's going on for us. And so that's really what I did for an entire year. I read and I listened to my favorite healers and teachers and leaders and even engaged some of their services. And it helped do things like bring up that memory I shared earlier and started to bring to my consciousness these underlying, self-limiting money beliefs that I really had. And my parents, when I was in college, it was when I was a senior in high school, they declared bankruptcy and we lost our home, and my parents subsequently got divorced. And I don't think I realized what an impact that really had on my adulthood and my own family and my business. This just fear I have around not having enough, this insecurity, that I think creates all these problems for myself. And so in addition to those things, I also turn to my essential oils because those are my natural just go-to for all things, physical and emotional well-being. And I have mine right here. Even before I got on here, I love to use my essential oils. This one right here is something called Valor, and it's for self-confidence. So I knew I was getting on the video today, but it's so easy. It was just so easy for me to do. I could just grab them and either sniff right out of the bottle, or I would even just put a drop in my hand and, just take 4 nice breaths, and already just feeling, so much better. And you just, and I used oils, there's oils that you can really use to get rid of these beliefs. If you know anything about, think about scent. When you smell something like cinnamon or something, it may trigger a memory for you of maybe being back in your grandma's kitchen cooking. And so the essential oils can help, bring up things that we don't even know are there and help release them and help us write a whole new story. And that's really what they did for me. And so I just keep my oils everywhere, either in my car, they're in my purse, my office, wherever I go. And if that's how easy it is just for me to kind of, when I start to feel those feelings creep up, just to pivot my thoughts really quickly with just using my oils. So they've been a true, wonderful blessing in my life. Sure.
I love this. I love this, Jill. So, what you shared earlier, first of all, about the brave step and just being honest with yourself, that is a huge step. That right there it's an act of courage, to just be honest with ourselves. Because sometimes we find that we try to avoid it. We do everything we can to avoid the truth. But when we just finally stop and kind of, build up our brave muscles, maybe like you said, take a quick sniff of the essential oils of brave, just to even be honest with ourselves, because it gives us a sense of safety, perhaps, like you mentioned, the cinnamon and the connection with grandma. And, maybe imagining for a moment your body experiences that. I mean, the essential oils are very powerful. They connect with our brain so deeply. So for us to just feel safe enough to be open and with ourselves, because here's the next part is a lot of times we're really kind of, you mentioned the bankruptcy and being able to share that now. But what happens sometimes when we go through many different financial situations that are really painful is there's shame attached. And then shame becomes kind of that wet blanket over our life, and we kind of stay hidden behind it, and it prevents us from moving forward. So this is a brave journey. That's part of the reason why I named the show Let's Get Tender, because it's of course a play on the word legal tender, money, but it's also about this brave, tender territory, which encompasses our emotions, vulnerability, sometimes the shame that we sometimes need to expose to the light, but in safe places where we can connect with other people. And so I also feel too that there's a celebration that you've been able to take these brave steps, whether it's with being honest with yourself and also using tools around you like the essential oils to continue to maintain your success and connection, you know, but also you also become that person that becomes that brave friend or that brave leader or that brave role model for other women to be attracted to and to link arms with. Because, you know, while you may be strong in your journey at this moment, maybe another isn't, but with you, you know, with the right people in our life, we can get to that next level. So I love that you've done this, Jill. And
yeah, and I love that. I agree with that. I love that feeling of, you know, being that model for other people, because you're right. We all go through things at different times. And so to have gone through and kind of come out the other side and be that, you know, example is really something that I love, you know, to do for my clients.
yes, it's so important. So what kind of empowering belief then now do you hold about money that helps you in your business?
Well, you know, I just really just feel that, you know, that that money for me is like my health is my wealth. And so it all is a really big tie for me. That time is fleeting. You know, I'm in my midlife years. You know, there's X amount of time. And so what I was finding that when I was having those limiting beliefs and I was kind of going through that journey, it was affecting me physically in a lot of ways. I have a lot of back issues, and low back actually is, if you know anything, but it is related to financial instability. And so there were a lot of things that were showing up in my life, digestive issues, sleep issues, things that were showing up. So, you know, really realizing that my health was my true wealth was a really big, important thing. And it doesn't really seem necessarily like a financial type of tip type of thing. But what I found was when I was doing my research for my book, that stress and, you know, and heart disease is the #1 killer of women over 50. And all these financial worries around money that I was having, you know, can lead to some major issues. You know, women in this age group, you know, there's something called gray divorce, you know, women getting divorced over 50, and that's on the rise. And then women start to worry about how am I going to take care of myself? Or what happens if my spouse gets ill or they die? What's going to happen to me? Or are we going to have enough money to even retire on? Or are we going to be working until the day I die? And all this can really lead to all kinds of illnesses and, you know, bad compensatory strategies and things like that. And, you know, what I found is that, you know, I was kind of hanging on to that money so much, and you can't take it with you. It's not going to help you if you're in the hospital. So, you know, one thing that I kind of created, it sounds a little silly, but it was like a wellness jar. And it was something for me to remind myself that this money isn't all just to go to business or to other things, but to go to my wellness. And so I'm 48 years old. So every month I put $48 into a jar, and that money is just for me to spend on things like, you know, really good quality food, or if I want to, you know, like I'm looking to hire a personal trainer or things like that, or just experiences that I know are going to enrich my life and my family's life. And that's just really, really helped me bring back the joy in what I'm doing, and finding that just kind of, you know, balance between these thoughts that happen and being able to just change it and make it into a positive.
Ah, thank you so much for explaining that connection to, you know, an empowering belief about money, like you said, where, you know, your health is your wealth, and really explaining how that does end up connecting to money, but in a greater way than sometimes we would think, right?
Yes.
And I know I hear that so often, and I've experienced that as well, that, you know, the more that we focus on our self-care, the more that we actually do naturally attract that income that we, you know, desire. And that really helps us to achieve our dreams. And for women, I know those dreams usually aren't just about us. They usually have a bigger impact on the community around. So when those financial dreams come true, many people usually benefit from it. So I love this. I love this. And I completely agree. I mean, our health is our wealth. So what have you learned from your business? Would you say you have a lesson or two, Jill, that you could share with us that you've learned from your business that you could actually, somehow it even relates to your relationship to money?
Yeah, I think what I have come to realize, and I've been an entrepreneur, on this kind of journey for a long time, is that when I just do what I love, I charge what I'm worth, and I just trust that this is a wonderful universe and it's always got my back, and all this expansive and growth, and just not be attached to the financial income, then life is so much better and things flow and the money flows, the right clients flow. And it's just, I just love attracting the right things into my life, doing what I love and not worrying. Because when I was worrying all the time, I was just attracting a lot more things to worry about. And when I really turned my head around and started just, getting into gratitude and all the things that I do have and all the things that are going well, then more gratitude and more things to be happy about started to come into my life. And I started an intermittent fasting, essential oils, and healthy living class in early January. And I attracted for the first time in my life, not only just people from the United States, but from the United Kingdom and from Australia. And they've become like raving fans now. They're sharing with their friends and they're joining my other programs. And my business is just like snowballing the way it's supposed to be. And I'm creating this online mobile business that, I know is going to serve me, serve my clients, and make my second half of life exactly the way I want it. So I'm excited for that.
That is such an exciting, beautiful success story. And I'm so glad you shared that, and you also talk about trust, which that's really hard. And that's why what you're sharing is so helpful, because somebody who's really struggling financially, if we're in that place in our life, we can really start to be in a situation where we're kind of being robbed of our life, really, because, the stress and the anxiety and the worry, and we're not even able to, we're so engrossed in that, connected to finances, and we're starting to neglect other areas of our life. Whereas if we can just trust enough, it won't be necessarily 100% trust that we have within us, the potential, but just enough to let go and to believe that the universe has our back, that God has our back, that spirit has our back, that, there's a light that shines on our world and our finances as much as it does on other people's finances. If we can just let go and trust, which is kind of what you're saying, it's amazing how we can shift the dynamics within us and things start to naturally shift. So I love this example that you've given. And so what would you say, Jill, that you've learned about, what have you learned about money that you would whisper into, your younger self's ear?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And, I have 2 teenagers. My son is about to go off to college. He was just accepted yesterday to his first choice. So we're very excited about that. And so I think about this all the time, what messages am I giving them? And so what messages do I want to change for myself? And that is for really to always be aware that we have these unconscious beliefs, and to really always look at how they're showing up for us. When things aren't working out, to really take a step back, and instead of plowing through it and just working harder, take a step back and maybe think, what is really going on here? What is, why isn't it happening? And that's what I hope that my children will do, because I was a plower. I'm going to make it better. I'm going to fix it. And on the outside, and it's really everything. It all comes from inside first, and then all the outward can flourish. And not even just for my kids, but for my midlife women in my programs and everything that I offer, that's my goal for them, is to flourish in our midlife, in our second half of life. We've got a lot of life to live. I work with women up to their 70s, their 80s, and these are healthy women. We can live up to our 100. I want to live a healthy, happy life, and unencumbered by these crazy little, worries that are just so self-imposed that we let take our joy from us. And And, in that, like I said, I have these programs for women all around their wellness. I have around their eating. I have an intermittent fasting program. I teach a virtual Pilates program, which I just love. I had my studio, and now I can get back to the joy part of teaching, where I'm in people's living rooms with them. And I do events, I do retreats, just a whole bunch of things. And, if it's okay, I'd love to just make a quick little offer to your audience, Marlene. If anybody wants to get involved with any of my programs, I'd love to share a little essential oil with you, an abundance oil, so that you too can have some abundance in your life. Because I just think that the midlife women, we're kind of sometimes put on the back burner. We're not made to feel special. And I really want women just to know that you are special and that we can live physically, emotionally, healthy, financially incredible lives and do amazing things in this world. And that's really what I'm about. My mission is about is, we're not the kind of, we're not laying down, we're just getting started.
Oh, Jill, this is so powerful, because you're kind of your message, as you're sharing here, that, that you love helping women to know they are special. They are special. It kind of circles right back to how we started this conversation at that dinner table, and how you really wanted to make sure that even while you were being singled out as the special one at the table, you really wanted your cousins to feel equally special. And the other thing I love too, is that you're sharing about how you approach business now, and what you would actually whisper into the ear of your younger self is that when we approach business more in a feminine way rather than the masculine energy, we have it both within us, right? We have the feminine and the masculine within us. And a lot of times we get really, because we don't know any other way, we get more engaged in the masculine way of doing business. It's just the go, do, work, right? But the feminine energy, which is in all of us, also is about more of the receiving. And you've really, really brought that to life here about the receiving and really being open to what life wants to give you, if we can just be open enough to receive it. And then there's also, then from that, we, of course, when we receive, what do we want to do? I know for me, I always want to just give it. And whether it's a tip, a strategy, a book, maybe an essential oil I've just discovered, a new person like you that I've just discovered, or money, right? The more we receive it, we want to give it away. So I love that you've talked about this. And yes, I would absolutely love for you to share a bit more about how people can, talk to you more about this conversation, or even learn more about what you do. Please share with us.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate that. And my name is kind of a mouthful, so I'm going to give you a website here that I like to use. It's shore.b, shor.by/midlife mojo. And that will take you to all of my programs, all the things I do around intermittent fasting, and around Pilates, around essential oils. I also offer a sex webinar, just incorporating the essential oils and the eating and the healthy exercise. You can also have access to my book, which I'm very excited about. That came out in July, and I'm getting ready to come out with another one, hopefully in the next month or two, specifically around intermittent fasting. And there's just, coming in the fall time, I'm going to be having my very first, I'm very excited, my Midlife Mojo retreat. It's going to happen here in Florida. So there's just a lot of things that are exciting for me going on right now. And I just recommend people getting connected with me. On Facebook, I have a private Facebook page called The Right Side of 45. And you can join that. And I'm in there all the time, just supporting women and just, getting you more access to where I am and what I'm doing in this world.
Oh, I love it. I'm seeing your yellow blouse, and I can't help but connect, because you're so vibrant, and it's like, I feel this message of, life is too short, ladies, not to be vibrant, not to, embrace life and to fully live it and to thrive. And you've offered all these wonderful ways to help women do that. But when I see your beautiful blouse, and I just think of this beautiful lemon, right? Just, just the zest of life, and being the zest of life. And, we handle a lot as women. We have a lot of different responsibilities, a lot of hats that we wear all the time. And it is easy to kind of get into a place where we start to lack our energy. We start to lack our glow. We start to, we do kind of start to sometimes fade. But you are such a beautiful example that it doesn't have to be that way. And there is help and resources for us to really stay vibrant. And in that way, we also then can continue to have a healthy relationship with money as well. So I'm so grateful to have had you here, Jill. Thank you so much again for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I love how you brought that all around full circle. So, and I love the lemon. I love my lemon essential oil. So nice and as an uplifting scent. So a perfect example. And thank you so much for having me here today. I've truly enjoyed this conversation.